maybe the other one got burnt out from last night's daf. That's what I'm thinking. Tonight's daf was way more geschmack. Way more geschmack. So yeah. Jesse, everything all right out there?
Security for Harmony.
Oh, Harmony's tonight too? Again?
Last night, yeah.
I hear. You always put on the detailed securing the women, huh? No comment. Okay. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, there was a plane. What?
I said you're always on the security detail for the women.
I'm outside and they pay for it. It's fine with me.
There you go. All right. Well, enjoy it.
Yep.
Okay. Where did we get up to here? We got up to the Mishna, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Major yeshiva charade, as we could call it. Yeshua March is just called Major Toisus, from the most major Toisus in the Yevamos right here. Coming up in today's daf. Two Toisus. I wasn't going to say it, but then I just saw his name flash on the top, so I had to say it.
Excellent.
There you go. Anyways, okay. So tonight is 3 people on the daf's grandmother's yard side. Me, Aaron Kaplan, and Peretz. Right? Gittel Bas.
That's not fair. That's the same grandmother.
Gittel Bas Aaron Eliezer.
It's Jacob Bas Aaron Eliezer, no?
Yes, I was just trying to remember. Gittel Bas Aaron Eliezer is my grandmother's yard site. The Neshama Shav Aliyah, and my son Gershon is making a siyum at approximately 11:15 here in this house. PM. If you think that's not on a yeshiva boy schedule, I don't know what is.
It's
but
Machshava Kemaisa.
the Olam is invited.
Siyum or what?
Yeah, I'm going to take a nap. Yeah.
Siyum or what?
You're muted, Rabaran. You're muted. Siyum, I don't know, one of his Maseftas.
I said son Kolatera Kula, no.
Yeah. Let me tell you, the food is going to be like as if he made. We're going to be more food by this siyum than all of Reb Chaim's Kolatera Kula siyum together. I can guarantee you that.
I don't know. I'm not seeing any pictures from Peretz. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know what Peretz is. This is some of Peretz's
No,
maspali.
I supplied the beer.
Oh.
Aaron,
You have a lot of nachas.
Amen.
When
Thanks.
starting with the chametz?
Whoa.
Starting the chametz.
He started already.
There you go. I didn't start.
Zev, maybe post a question on the daf chat because it's daf related. By the way, Reb Rafe, I have to give you a big mazel tov yashikoyach. The first thing somebody posted in a long time on the daf related to the daf was yours tonight. What time is the daf? Perfect.
That wasn't him.
That wasn't that who?
No.
I just said thank you.
Mr. LZ.
I'll take a compliment anytime. Shkoyach.
Carol. Yeah. Okay. So let's go. Let's start because as last night's stuff went, tonight's very geschmack, and yes, like we said, a lot of two major toisvos in. Okay. So Zog the Mishna. Yeah. Daf Chof Amud Aleph. Klal Amru b'Yevama. There's a klal that we said by Yevama. So there's going to be basically 3 levels of Yevama of a Yevama that there's going to be issues with doing the yibum to her. Right now, again, the standard yivum is just a lav, not just a lav, but it's a lav, right? A man is marrying his sister-in-law, which normally he's not allowed to do, but because of yibum, he's allowed to do it. But then sometimes there's additional isurim that are on there. Like it could be, the yivum could also be his mother, it could be his daughter-in-law, it could be his sister's sister, his wife's sister, it could be a mamzeres, it could be an Ailonis, it could be all sorts of things, right? So there's different levels. So klal amiva kol shehi as Issur ervah. If the
Didn't we say that there were 15 in the first Mishnah?
That's 15 of that madrega, but then there's other madregas. There's 15 of those that pattur the Tzara. But then there's those
Yeah.
that don't even fall into it, like like was the second Mishnah.
Oh, so there's
And
three
then you
different
have-
categories that can have 15, 20 of each.
Whatever.
Can't
I
be
don't know if
three
you
in
say it
Yevam.
like
It can't be
that,
just
but-
three in Yevamis, right? It has to be
No,
more complicated.
correct. No, correct.
Okay.
So anyway, right. No, it's three, right. Each one falls into these three categories. Yes, thank you. Anyway, so Kolshi Issur ervah. If it's an Issur ervah, meaning in addition, obviously a brother's sister is an Issur ervah. But if let's say she had an additional Issur ervah, so then there's no chalitza and there's no yibbum. Right? Meaning that's the standard of our Mishnah, right? That's the first 15 cases, like Naftali said. If there's an Issur ervah and there's no chalitza, no yibbum. Issur mitzva, the Issur kedusha, which the Gemara is going to discuss. If there's an Issur mitzvah and an Issur kedusha, which are less, one is going to be a derabanan and one is going to be an Issur lav, but not an Issur ervah, then those get chalitza v'loy yevam. They have chalitza and not yibbum. Now, achoisa shehi yevimta, if the sister that she is the yevama, then chalitza then that also she does chalitza or yibbum. So now that's we'll wait till the Gemara. We'll wait till the Gemara to discuss that case. Okay, and then the last case is Issur mitzvah shnius Issur mitzvah. I'm sorry, what is the Issur mitzvah? When it says Issur kedusha and Issur mitzvah. So what's Issur mitzvah? Shnius midivrei seifrim. That's second level arayas, which is also derabanan. Meaning, you have, let's just use a basic example. So a granddaughter is an ervah. What about a great granddaughter? Right? Or a mother-in-law is an ervah. What about the mother-in-law's mother? Right? So then that would be shnius. That's the second level up. So that's also midrabanan, not the right. So it's possible for somebody to fall to even from that. So that's what Issur mitzvah is. I tell you where shnius also comes in is that really for psulei eidos, it's only rishonos that are issue, like a first cousin. Second cousin, me'ikar adin, you can use as an aid, like by a chasana. A lot of times, if there's only family around, you're looking for an aid on the ksuba, and everybody's related, right? So they say, okay, there's a second cousin. Second cousin should be okay, but with Lamaisa we don't, because even though it's a shnius, so we don't use that. We don't use that as an aid either, because of.
Didn't
Rabbi Yashiv had it was the fifth dar? I think he didn't wear shtreimel to the chasana.
Oh yeah, something like that, right? Yeah,
Right.
we came across that once, right? The fifth door, he said no shtreimel, something like that.
I think
Right,
so.
he said, but based on Aedis. I think it was based
Yeah,
on
it was
Shnius
based
or
on age.
Shnius.
That's what I was saying.
Taka.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what. So Issur mitzvah is Shnius, is the second level. Issur kedusha. What's Issur kedusha? That's an almana l'kohen gadol, right? Let's say one of the brothers is a kohen gadol, right? The kohen gadol's brother died without kids, so he's not allowed to marry. He only can marry a basula. So grusha v'chalutza l'kohen Hedyot, or if the sister-in-law got divorced, meaning the basic case there is that the brother Ruvain married a woman, then divorced her, right, and then remarried her, and then he died, right? So then he can't remarry her. I'm sorry, right? He can't remarry her because it's a kohen, right? So one of the brothers divorced her, and then somebody else married her. How does it go? How do you get the grusha part? I'm having a mental.
You did not halacha.
Oh, you do it not halacha, right? I'm trying to think. Is there a way to do it la halacha? No, there's no way, right? It's only if he did it like halacha. He remarried his wife like halacha, and then he died without a kid. So then it's then he's pattur. Mamzer to nasin Yisrael, a mamzer and a nasin to Yisrael, or bas Yisrael, the nasin and a mamzer, and a bas Yisrael to a nasin and a mamzer. So those are all lavim. So those last two cases, shnius and Issur mitzvah, which is almana l'kohen gadol, grusha chalitza kohen Hedyot, those you have to do chalitza and not yibbum, right? So meaning we're trying to get out of it. Like we said yesterday with mimer and all these things. Chalitza, no yibbum, is when we have a shaila, whether the marriage was even a legitimate marriage in the first place. So therefore, since it's a shaila, so we don't do yibbum, but we don't let him go scot-free either, because maybe maybe it was a marriage. So therefore, we say that you have to do chalitza. Fine. So klal, anytime Mishna says something, or anytime the Mishna uses the word klal, so it always comes to include something. So klal lasuye mai, what's it coming to include? Ailonis. It's coming to include Tzara's Ailonis, which we had in the last parak, where if you have one of the wives was an Ailonis, which Ailonis is a woman who cannot have kids, who never matured, right? So there's a Tzara's Ailonis. So that's called it's a Tzara of an Ailonis, and she's going to be pattur from chalitza and yibum. And that's like Shitas Ravasi, that an Ailonis is pattur. And those that say kol she'isura Issur ervah huda sira tzara, so only Issur ervah, right? Ailonis is not an Issur ervah, right? You just don't do yibbum to an Ailonis because she can't have kids anyway. So the whole point is to try and have kids in the name of your brother. But if the lady can't have kids, so why would you be matter and Issur for that? So the Tzara, but what about the Tzara? She's perfectly fine. So no, only Issur. The second, so the first shita says that it comes to that she doesn't have it. The second shita says no, only Issur ervah patter's the Tzara. And Ailonis is not an Issur ervah, so therefore you would do yibbum to the ervah. Hala Issura Issur ervah. This is not an Issur ervah. So Tzara asira. So therefore the co-wife, the Tzara is not asir either. The mutemai, what's this coming to exclude? Amarafram lemute Tzara's Ailonis to the like rebasi. It's coming to exclude an Ailonis, not like rebasi. I guess there's two different versions of whether it was going like that or not. Just interesting that the Gemara says Amar Rafram, doesn't say Bar Papa in this one, right? I don't know what is that, like the Gemara trying to do a shortcut? Pashtus, right? Unless you say that the other version is something different. Fine. Okay, so then Achoisa Sheyevimta. This is the hardest case. This is the hardest case of the night, but it's let's try and get it straight. Fine. So Achoisa Sheyevimta. So if you have a sister, that's a yevimta. Achoisa the man. Right? Whose sister is this? Ilema the Issur mitzva. If it's a sister of Issur mitzvah, which is derabanan, since it's a deraisa, meaning since deraisa she really can be married, he's going to end up marrying the sister of who he's supposed to do yibum to, and that's not allowed. Ella, what must it be? It's talking about the sister of an Issur ervah. Okay, so now what is this case exactly? So basically, it's you have two brothers that marry two sisters, right? The classic case, two brothers married two sisters, right? Then Levi, so again, Reuven and Shimon married two sisters. Then you had Levi, who what ended up being an ervah to one of these two sisters. Let's say that sister, Levi married his niece. Can it be? No, can't be. That wouldn't work. Levi married its, how does it go?
That would work. One of the women would be his mother-in-law.
He married, but it's not his niece, because then the other girl's his niece too, or niece from a different marriage.
Oh, what do you mean?
Yeah. How is it?
There's three brothers.
Right.
One of them is now married to his mother-in-law. His sister-in-law is his mother-in-law.
What's that? Reuben and Shimon marry sisters, right?
Yeah.
And oh, that's how it goes. Leah was married to, how do you go, Leah? What are we saying? How we go, Rachel, Leah? How do we use? We use the Tzara. Okay. You have Reuben and Shimon married Rachel and Leah, right? Isn't that what we? Yeah. Reuben and Shimon married sisters. Levi, right? Levi was married to. No, Levi's son was married to Leah. Right. So Leah is now what happens when Reuben and Shimon die. So now he ends up having to be yevam his daughter-in-law, which doesn't work. Right. So what's with the so the other one, is that considered this? That's not considered anything. That other wife is not considered anything because there was never any zika. Again, just to remember the zika, when you have two brothers married two sisters, so there's an automatic connection to both. So therefore, yibum is pattur according to one shita. If you hold of zika, but here there can't be zika for one of them because one of them is an ervah. So the other one you could do yibum on. That's what the Mishna is saying. When one of those sisters is definitely not able to be married to Levi, however you want to do the case, right? Normally, two brothers marry two sisters. If you hold that there's zika, they're both pattur because you can't do yibum to your wife's sister, and both of them are considered his wives, and both of them are considered wives, and both are considered wives' sister. So you can't do it. But if one of them is usher to marry the meyavim, either because it's his daughter-in-law or his mother-in-law or whatever it is, then there's no zika to both. So therefore, he could do yibum to the other one. That's basically what the Mishnah is saying. Fine.
Are we talking about doing yibbum? Shimon?
No, Shimon, Reuben and Shimon died, and Levi. Two brothers
Levi
died.
wants to do yibbum with one of those, with either Reuven's wife or Shimon's wife?
Well, he can't because if it's just straight sisters, he can't because they're both supposed to be his wives and they're both going to be his wife's sister. Right? That's the standard case. But if one of them he can't marry, so then the other one he should be able to, he could do yibum to, which is what the Mishnah say. Right? Okay, fine. Next case. Amai korele Issur mitzvah. Why is it called an Issur mitzvah? So Amarabai mitzvah l'shmaya divrei chachamim. Since it's a derabanan, so it's a mitzvah to listen to the divrei chachamim. Right? So then you got a special mitzvah of listening to Issur derabanan. That's why they're called Issur mitzvah. Issur kedusha. What's an Issur kedusha? Almana l'kohen gadol, kedusha chalitza l'kohen Hedyot. B'mai korile Issur kedusha. Right? Why are they called the Issur kedusha? T'chsiv kedashim yiyu leiloi kechem. You should be holy. So that's making certain people that are holy, like a kohen gadol or a kohen or a grusha chalitza kohen Hedyot, they're holier, so therefore they have more restrictions. So that's why it's called Issur kedusha. Tani Rabbi Yehuda machlif. Rabbi Yehuda switches it. Issur mitzvah. Issur mitzvah almana kohen gadol grusha chalitza kohen Hedyot. That's called Issur mitzvah. My korele Issur mitzvah. Why is that called Issur mitzvah? T'chsiv eila ha-mitzvahs, because it says these are the mitzvahs. Issur kedusha shniyas v'divrei servim. And Issur kedusha is the second level, like second cousins. That's the derabanan. Okay, but my korele Issur kedusha. Why is that called Issur kedusha? Amar Abaya, kol makayim divrei chachamim nikra kadosh. Because anybody who's makayim divrei chachamim is called kadosh. Right. So if you makayim mitzvahs derabanan, you're considered a holy person. So Amalei Rava, so Rava asked Abaya, right? V'chol she'ena mekayim divrei chachamim kadoshu d'loi mikri, but Rasha nami loi mikri. Somebody who's not mekayim divrei chachamim, good, so you're not calling him a kadosh, but he's also not a Rasha, right? Meaning, he's not such a bad guy. So Ella, so he said, so it can't be. Yeah. So Elo Marava, so Rava says, Kaddish atzmecha b'motor, right? Make yourself Kaddish, right? Very famous, right? Famous, what was it? The Ramban, right? On Kedoshim to you. So Rava says, Kaddish atzmecha b'motor, be Mekadosh yourself with something that is mutter to you, meaning midaraisa, only people that are first level ervahs are awesome. With the derabanan, you have second level, so that's to make us have more kedusha, because they were afraid that if you're going to allow second cousins, you might mix it up and even allow. I keep saying second cousins, first cousins, just for clarity's sake, right? But it doesn't mean that, because first cousins are mutter also. But it's saying the reason why the Chacham said that the second level Issurim are there so that you don't confuse the first level, right? So that's making yourself kaddish with something that's mutter.
Is Rava changing the pasuk?
Why is that you're not being Mekayim with deraisa? You had a deraisa
Of what?
to marry the yivum. And now you're saying because she's a shnius relative, I'm not doing it. I'm a kaddish. You got rid of a mitzvah deraisa.
Well, so that's really going to be tomorrow's daf. Really tonight, the end of tonight's daf is that you have the option of doing chalitza.
So what?
You are being mekayim your mitzvah that way. You're good. You're not doing it the ultimate. You're not doing it the ultimate. It's that.
So how can I be called a kaddish if I'm not doing what the Torah told me to do?
No. The kaddish is regular asering the arayas. It's not new yibum. The kaddish is when are the arayas asr, right? Meaning it's the reason why the Chachamim made it that the second level arayas are asr is al kaddish. Now that there's a shaila of yibbum, now we're running into a problem.
Okay.
Right? But I'm saying, but the original point of the gezerah to asr second level arayas was so that we won't mix them up.
Fine.
So now we have a problem with yibbum. No, now you're right. Now that the derabanan makes us have a
The
problem.
first Rebbe is Bush Prime. Look, now the guys weird when they're going to Monticello Raceway. I mean, that's not the Rebbe's fault when they started trying. Look, it's not.
Yeah, that's true. But now what? Now we're stuck by yibbum. 100%. We're stuck by yibbum. So therefore, we have to tell them to do chalitza. We're not going to tell them to go scot free because exactly what you're saying. You can't be mavatal a mitzvah deraisa of yibbum, but you can't. Right, you can't let them go scot free, but you can't.
But why shouldn't you do yibum? I'm saying yibum gets rid of the first level of one case. The first level of rights, the sister-in-law.
Oh, what?
This is the second level. Yibum gets rid of first level of rights. A sister-in-law is first level. So why doesn't it get rid of a derabanan of rights as well?
No, because it doesn't. It only gets rid of the Issur of husband's wife's. What does it go?
Your sister-in-law.
Your brother's wife, wife. That's it. But no, we're talking about when there's an additional Issur on top of that.
But the additional level is a lower level. It's a rabbanan level.
Right. So that's what a rabbanan
so
is saying.
So if the Torah got rid of one, why wouldn't you get rid of the lower level?
That's in all these cases of ervah. When you have an added case of ervah, so then you don't know what to do.
But that's the same level as the first one. That's not a lower level. Then you don't know what to do. Then you can't do it. This is a lower level. This is
no, the same level. Then the pattur totally. If it's both, if it's an additional issur deraisa, then it's pattur totally.
Correct.
Right. But when it's an issur derabanan, the additional issur, then it's chalitza and no yibbum. Right. That's what it's saying.
Okay. I know what it's saying. I'm saying the fact that the Torah got rid of the first level.
So that's you're agreeing with Rabban. You're agreeing with Rabban on his kasha. Like how are you getting rid of a mitzvah deraisa of yibbum to be stuck with the Rabbanan? The Rabbanan are basically getting rid of. Right, but they're not because you're doing chalitza. So chalitza is a way out. If there would be no such thing as chalitza, then pashtus, you're 100% right. You would have to do the yibbum. But lemaisa, we have an escape clause, which is chalitza. Right, that's the escape clause. Okay, well, we'll see more as it goes through the sugya.
Rava who says that first of all, he seems to have switched psukim. The first pasuk was kedeshim yeyu, which is kahuna. He seems to have switched to kedeshim teyu, the Ramban's drasha.
Yeah. So what are you saying?
It just slipped by the Gemara. He didn't. There's no drasha here. What is this? And he apparently is using it to say that it makes you a Russia.
Right. Okay. What? It's not. No, he's saying it's not. That was his kasha. You're talking about
kasha is it doesn't make you a Russia.
Right.
So kadesh atzmach v'mutilach does.
Well, he's disagreeing.
Why is he switching it? No, Abai was using the other pasuk.
Right.
Right? He says, okay, but that doesn't make you a Russian.
Right.
So what does? That makes a person a Russian.
No, I didn't learn it like that. I didn't learn that makes him to a Russian.
So what's he gaining?
What's he gaining?
Why doesn't he stick with Abaya?
Because he's not saying that it's a din. It sounds like, it is a din, but it's like a bonus kedusha, as opposed to a specific halachic requirement. Meaning it's like a warning. That's what it's there for, not to tell you there's a ikar din. Right? Most derabanans are gezeras to make sure you don't come to be over on Issur derabanan. Right? So it sounds like Abaye thought not like that. It was like a new Issur derabanan, like cholavakum or gvinasakum or pasakum or something like that. Right? That it's a newfangled gezerah, and then Rav is saying no, it's there to make sure you have a higher level of kedusha. That's what I understand it, but could be I'm wrong. Okay, so let's see. By so almana l'kohen gadol. So an almana l'kohen gadol. So kapasik v'tani, right? That loishna min anasuin v'loishna min erisin. What the meaning is an almana to a kohen gadol also once she gets married, meaning if she just gets kedushin, even if she's still a besula, right? Or meaning it's yes, that is he's not allowed. Meaning it's a kohen gadol has to marry a besula. Right, but he also can't marry somebody who was married. It's two different isurim. If she gets married, kedushin, not nisuin, right? She gets, let's call it engaged. She gets engaged, right? Which again we mean by engaged means married, just not the second nisuin, right? So she's also to a kohen gadol, even though she never had intercourse. She's still a besula. She's still usher. Once she has nisuin, and she's no longer a basula, so now there's two isurim for the kohen gadol. The kohen gadol is over on two isurim. Not two. One is an alav and one is an asay. Right, so that's the Gemara saying. So since the Mishnah doesn't differentiate, so the Mishnah is saying that it doesn't make a difference if this is an almana from nisuin or from erisin. So Abisham in a nisuin, if she was already married and she was no longer a basula, so that's asay v'lois asay. So then it's a mitzvah asay that he shouldn't marry an almana, and then there's a loisa say. No, I'm sorry. The loisa says that he shouldn't take an almana, and the asay is that he should take a basula. So it's an asay and a loisa say. Vein asay doicha loisa say asay, and the mitzvah of yibum, which is a mitzvah asay, is not doicha loisa say and an asay, right? Element erisin, but if it was just when the first stage of marriage, loisa asa greidu, that's all it is a loisa asa. In case anybody missed that sugi from the beginning of Yevamos, right? So why don't we say that the mitzvah of yibum is more important than the loisa of marrying an almana for a kohen gadol, right? Why don't we say as a loisa? So Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav Amar Kra, but also yevimtei hasha'ara, and the yevam will come to the gates, which means that she should come to the gates. Meaning she comes to Bezdin. Why does it have to say for also yivimta yashara? Just say for also yashara. We know we're talking about a lady who needs yibbum. So what does the Torah say? Another word yivimta. So matam alemer yivimta. What is yivimta coming to tell you? Yeshlcha yivama achas means you have one yivama sha'oil chalitza ve'ein yibbum. There is one type of yivama that you can only do chalitza. But you can't do yibbum be'ezu, and which one is that? Zu chayve lavin. That's only if it's a chayve lavin. So basically, he's saying that it's a pasuk that tells us that it's not a doiche es a doiche losase, right? Meaning we don't say es a doiche losase, and that's why the kohen gadol does not do yibbum to a sister-in-law. So Gemara says ve'em chayve krisis. Why don't we say chayve krisis too? Right? So why can't it shouldn't be doicha chayve krisis either? Meaning, and you should have to do chalitza. Meaning chayve krisis was saying you don't even have to do yibbum. We're saying again for a lav you have to do chalitza, not yibbum. Right? We're saying that from the pasuk. Why don't you just say the same thing by if it was a chiyuv kares? Just do chalitza. Right? We said that the first 15 cases of the Mishnah you're totally pattur from yibbum and chalitza. Why not do chalitza? So Makra, because the pasuk says if the man does not want to take the woman, if he wants to, then he could be miyavam. So we had this once before. If a person has the possibility of doing yibbum, then he could do chalitza if he so chooses. And if somebody does not go up for yibbum, then he doesn't go up for chalitza. Meaning it's all or nothing. If somebody cannot do yibbum, then he's pattur from chalitza. If the only time chalitza could be in play is if there's a mitzvah to do yibbum, and he could do yibbum, but he chooses not to, then you can
So Yaakov,
then you have
how does
chalitza.
that work with today? Today we don't do yibum, we only do chalitza. How does that?
So that's for a different reason. We'll get to Ahmed base. That comes in a little bit on Ahmed base. Right,
But didn't you just say? Didn't we just say in this case that they can't do yibum and they do chalitza?
the what?
In this case, they can't do yibum and they do chalitza.
Yes.
You just said that the only way to
No,
do
but that's
chalitza is
by
Plus,
to
he
all
can't
enough.
do a yibum. He
That's
can't
by
do
a
yibum.
lav. That's by a lavim we do chalitza, not yibum. By chorus, we don't do
So
either.
it's not all or nothing by yibum and chalitza. It's all nothing by chorus.
Correct.
Okay, fine. I thought you meant
Which
it's
is
all
the next
nothing by
kasha.
yibum.
I thought it's the next
Right,
Gemara's
uh-huh.
kasha. Yogi chavi lavin nami. It's exactly Naftali's kasha. If that's the case, so chavi lavin too. You can only do chalitza. You can't do yibum, so you should be pattur. So Rabbi Rachmana yivimtai. No, there the pasuk has an extra word that says yivimtai to tell you that you do. So then, okay, so now we have two psukim. One telling us that you don't do chalitza unless there's a possibility to do yibum, and one tells you that you do. So which one is? So we said that one is going for kakaris and one is going for lavin. So the Gemara says, "Umari Isa." What do you say? Which pasuk to put to which one? So on Tamabez, Mustaber Chayvi Lavin Tafsibu Kedushin. Chayvi Lavin Kedushin works, right? You're not allowed to do it, but if you did it, the marriage is considered a marriage, right? So therefore, there you would do chalitza. Chayvi Krisis like Tafsibu Kedushin, but somebody who's Chayv Karis, Kedushin doesn't work. So therefore, if it doesn't work, then you're pattur from chalitza and from yibum. Okay, so now we promised this major toisus here, right? So the Gemara is saying that what the whole Gemara's kasha was, let an essay be doicha lois essay, right? So Toisus says that the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that a woman does not get pregnant the first time she's together with a man. A basula cannot. The mitzvah has changed nowadays, as far as I know. But in the Gemara's times, a basula cannot get pregnant the first time, right? So then Toisus asks, how can you do yibum? Right? How can you do yibum? The yibum, you want to say essay is doicha loisa. The mitzvah of yibum is doicha loisa, said that he's not allowed to be with her, right? What do you mean? How could it be doicha? She's not getting pregnant anyways, right? And the second thing,
He's a basula.
she has to be. We're talking about the kohen gadol, right? So you're gonna say, okay, they'll be together again, but then she's no longer a basula, right? So maybe okay, this.
But she's his wife. But she's his wife at that point.
No, but she's not. He can't even get to the. It's not his wife. It's a lot for him to do that.
One second. She was married. She was engaged. I'm assuming to her brother. That's the case, right? She never got married to her brother, the kohen gadol's brother.
She was
engaged to the kohen gadol's brother.
Yeah.
She was, right, but she was never married to the kohen gadol's brother.
Yeah.
So if he does yibum, didn't we say last night that it's not like a Rav Aaron thought at one time and finished? They get married.
Right. So that's the question.
Second time together.
No,
why can't
the second time they can't?
Why?
Because there's a gzeira bia shnia. So we have to really wait till the end of the Amud. There's a gzeira bia rishayna atu bia shnia. Anytime that you have any of these cases where there's an Issur involved, the maskanas Gemara is going to be the reason why an Issur lav is not allowed to do yibum is because we're afraid that if we're going to allow them to be together once, the second time it's already usur. Because it's not a.
So
it's not a
case.
Isn't
there any case of any yibum?
No, because the regular
husband's
yibum
engaged.
Because the regular yibum she becomes his wife.
So why in this case doesn't he become his wife?
Because you're not allowed. It's a lav.
And a regular yibum, it's a lav that it's his brother. It's your sister-in-law.
The lav we're saying essays doicha loisa said. The Gemara wants to say essays doicha loisa said. So therefore, it pushes off the lav. Fine, but it only pushes it off the first time. That's it. Anyways,
Why isn't there any case of yibum from an engaged brother?
because that's what the Torah there. There's no Issur. The one Issur that you have is the brother's wife. That the Torah
Right.
says doesn't apply. Doesn't apply anymore.
Doesn't
It's
apply
gone.
even for the second. Even for the second.
Correct.
If
It's
she's a
gone. That
psula.
Issur is gone. Okay. Yeah. No, you're asking. Yeah, Naftali's asking good. He's asking good. So now the teretz from Tosfos, the Ailam's not gonna like. If the Ailam's a little quiet tonight, but I cannot understand. Say I can understand Tosfos teretz. That Tosfos teretz is saying that the bia does not have to be that a baby can be born from this thing. Yibbum is pshat that it has to be roy to have a baby, but if it's not roy to have a baby, it's still fine.
That's what Rav Aaron said yesterday.
Right, but does it make sense? Does this make that was his kasha yesterday? Right? Does it make sense? Man,
I'm saying it's not about the actual the production of it. I'm saying it's about the act.
Not about the results.
Exactly. That's what I meant. Thank you. It's not about the results, about the act.
Which by the
So if
way,
a guy
is a
knows-
very
if a guy
Jewish
knows he's
concept.
sterile,
What are you saying, Peretz?
Right, the guy is
knows-
sterile. He can't do
Oh.
yibbum.
Correct. No, if the guy is sterile, so it's not even right.
Right.
It's not
Who cares?
even
You can still do yibbum.
No, you cannot. We're going to see another
yeah?
base. You cannot. No, if the guy is sterile, he cannot do yibum. There's no
So
point.
why don't they have it? Why isn't it a full bia then? Then why don't we require a full bia in order to be to do yibbum?
What do you mean?
It's not
What's
right
it?
to be to.
Yes, it is. We said last night it is.
No,
One second. So we're
it's
going to
not.
say, one second. We're going to get to this on Amud Base, so maybe I should have waited for Amud Base to do this. But okay, but the Tosfos teretz is that the bia does not have to have the mamish ability. I mean, it has to have
Jaco,
the
I
ability.
think we're on Ahmed Base. I mean, at least I think so.
We are on Amud Base, but the bottom of Amud Base.
He meant further down.
Tosfos teretz, it's a very lumdish teretz. It's meaning Tosfos is saying that yibum does not have to have the ability, it has to have the potential to produce a child, but even if it's not going to produce a child. Right? But-
So the woman's on birth control or whatever it is, you say it wouldn't be work.
Well, correct. Now that's the question. So let's say the woman is in her 70s,
Right.
right? So then do you? And let's say not. Do you do chalitza even, or is the whole thing pattur? All right.
Good question.
Anyway, but that's one of the tirutzim in Tosfos. Anyways, let's see weiter, and then we'll get to the
Isn't this Taisus of Shitase in Kiddushin? Gemara calls Bir Rishayna Bias Mitzvah. Taisus asks the same question. How can it be Bias Mitzvah if the Mitzvah is Pru Revu and she can't become pregnant from the first year?
Right.
He says there,
I don't know,
because it makes her a kli. That's Taisus. Because the first Bir Rishayna makes her a kli to become pregnant.
But that's not going to
called
work
Bias
here.
Mitzvah. Why? Same idea.
It's making a kli. She's also after the first beer.
That's true, but without the first beer, she's nothing.
But she's not getting
off.
anywhere. But it's not getting anywhere.
No, but then it becomes a kasha on the whole yibbum. And if she doesn't become pregnant from the first beer, then it's not yibbum.
Well, it
The
becomes
point
mutter.
is-
That's what we're saying. It becomes mutter. Okay, let's wait till the bottom of the Amud. Yeah. So now the Gemara, and again, so right now with the maskonas on Gemara, it's not the maskona because the Gemara is going to ask about 10 kashas on this, right? Not hard. I mean, not so hard, right? That's what I'm saying now. But every time I look at it, I think I knew it, and then I realize I don't know it. But anyway, so Gemara right now is saying that Rav's shita is that a lav, the reason why a lav, any Issur lavim gets chalitza, not yibbum, is because basically exeris hakosov. Let's call it that. The pasuk tells you there's a word yivimta that tells you that chayve lavin you can't do yibbum to, but you do chalitza to. So then Masav Rava, so Rava asked the kasha, second line down, third line down on Amud Beis. So Masav Rava Issur mitzvah Issur kedusha, right? We said in the Mishna there's Issur mitzvah, which is Issur derabanan, and Issur kedusha, which is a lav. So let's say he did do yibbum. He wasn't allowed to do yibbum. He's supposed to do chalitza, right? Both of these cases he's supposed to do chalitza, but he did it anyways. Or he did chalitza. So now what's with the Tzara? Is the Tzara pattur? I mean, we know that you only do You only have to do yibum or chalitza to one. You only can do yibum or chalitza to one wife. You don't do to both. So let's say he illegally went and did yibum or chalitza. He wasn't supposed. Well, chalitza he could have, but yibum. So then niftara tzarasa. Then the tzara becomes pattur, right? Meaning even though he's supposed to do chalitza, but if he did yibum, the other one becomes pattur, right? V'yisagadai techayve lavin midaraisa lechalitza rami. And if you say the chayve lavin midaraisa need chalitza, so then how could the tzara not get chalitza? There was no chalitza done. Liyavam loy ramya, right? But you don't go to yibum. Sorry, I stopped over the middle of a sentence here. Again, v'yisagadai techayve lavin midaraisa lechalitza ramya. That chayve lavin get chalitza. Yibum loy ramya, but they don't get yibum. So kibaleh, when he does yibum to her, amai niftara tzarasa, why should the tzara be pattur? The tzara needs to get chalitza. If the reason why by a lav there's no yibum and only chalitza is because the pasuk said you need to have chalitza. So if the guy illegally does yibum to one wife, how can the other wife go scot-free? She needs to have chalitza and she didn't get it. So it must be it's not a pasuk. So he asked the question and he gave his own answer. Let's studin katani. Where those four words you have to take to literally means to sides. You have to take sides. Meaning it's two different halachas. When it says if he did be yibum Issur mitzva, that's talking about by the mitzvah the derabanan. So by the derabanan, if he did yibum, so b'diavad it's going to work. Chalatzla, Issur kedusha. He did chalitza. That's going on the Issur kedusha, right? And therefore the Issur kedusha is enochanami. It's not going to make her. He's not going to make the other wife pattur. Again, the Gemara is saying that when it says ba'alel, that's talking about the Issur mitzvah, which is the derabanan. So the derabanan, you weren't supposed to do yibum, but if you did, that's going to let the other wife go free too. But the Issur kedusha is talking about his chalitza. He did chalitzas, and of course the other wife goes free. But had he done yibum to one wife, then the other wife taka would not go free. Fine. So then
why isn't this Saisa Rav on the other side? On Amud Aleph.
Why should it be
Rav on Amud Aleph seem to agree with the second way of learning, but they switched it. Rabbi Yehuda Machlokes, it's a mitzvah is almana kohen gadol, it's a kedusha is shnius.
Right.
Here he's saying the other way around. It's a kedusha, it's a mitzvah is shnius, it's a kedusha is almana.
That was Rava?
Rava didn't argue. Rava came at the end. He just argued with the
but
Bible.
that was just, I don't think he means that Rava held like that shita. I didn't learn it like that. You
Just
think so? Yeah, it was just, I thought it was saying pshat. Okay, so then Masav Rava. Now here we get into the case where now there could be two cases. This is basically where the man cannot have kids, but he physically cannot have kids, meaning either the testicles are messed up, or the actual aver is messed up, or he becomes a saris by a person, or well, actually one case is where he's old. So you have two scenarios here. You could have where the husband who died was one of these guys, meaning he couldn't have kids, or you could have that the husband who died could have kids, but his brother could not have kids. Two different scenarios, right? Shalati, Masav Rava. So Rava asked the question, Patsua Daka, right? So that's somebody whose the testicles are crushed. Ukrus Shavcha, that's where the aver is cut. It has a cut on it, so therefore he's not able to have kids. Saris Adam, or somebody who became a saris by a person, right? Somebody who he got sterilized, right? V'hazakein, and somebody who's too old, right? So he can't have kids. So then those cases, oy chaltzin, oy miyavim. Either they do chalitza or they do yibum. Now, what does that mean? Either do yibum. How can I do yibum? We just got finished saying you can't have. If a guy can't have kids, how do we allow him to do yibum? Right? So Rashi says it means b'diavad. Right? Meaning if they did it, then the yibum is okay. They're not allowed to do yibum, but if they did do yibum, then the yibum works. Right? And then the other wife would go free. So what's the case? The kedusha. Now the Gemara goes back. So first it discusses when the person who died couldn't have kids. Kedusha mesu.
Well, what's the point of that? What's the point of that yibum? Even if it was b'diavad, doesn't
He
work.
did it. No, he did it right. It was no point, but he did it. He did it anyways, right? He did it. He wasn't supposed to do it, but he did it, right? Yeah, there was no point. But okay, I guess. Yeah. See, he's. I don't know. He wanted to just try and be regular, right? Fine. So Ketzad, what's the case? Mesu. Let's say they died, meaning the original husband was one of these four that couldn't have kids. Vilahem achim, but they had brothers. Vilahem noshim, right? And the brothers had wives, right? I'm sorry. The the ones that died obviously had wives. V'amdu achin v'asu maimer b'nesaseh. And what they did is they went and they did maimer, which means they showed intent to marry these wives. V'nosnu get, and then they gave a get, right? Meaning he didn't do yibum yet. He did maimer, which is kedusha derabanan, and then he gave a get. So then that's the get acts as the place of chalitza, right? Or v'chaltzu, or they did chalitza. Masha also what they did, and v'im ba'alu kanu. And if they did do bia, if they did yibum, then they're also kind of them, right? That's the first case. That's if the original husband who died couldn't have kids. Mesu achim. But let's say the brothers died, and now the one that's sterile is supposed to do the yibbum. Yeah. So va'amdu heim va'asu ma'ir b'nesasein, and then these sterile guys got up and said they're going to marry them. V'nosnu get aishachalzu, or they gave a get, or they did chalitza. Masha also what they did. V'imbalu kanim, and if they did, like we said before, and if they did do bia, they do yibum, then they're going to be kind of them. V'asu l'kaiman, but they're not allowed to stay married. Right? Mishum shenemar lo p'tzua daka. They're not allowed to stay married because we know the pasuk says that somebody who's a p'tzua daka, somebody who's physically cannot have kids, there's something wrong with him, is not allowed to stay married. Whatever it is, so what do we want for this? But if you say that chayve lavin get chalitza specifically and they don't get yibbum, in balu amai kanu, if they decided to be over and they decided to do yibbum, why are they kinda? Again, we're saying according to Rav, the pasuk says that if it's a chiyav alav, the sister-in-law is alav to you have to do chalitza, not pshat that you're doing chalitza because there's no choice to do yibbum. The pasuk makes you do chalitza. So then, how could it be that if these guys do yibbum, it works instead of chalitza? You need to do chalitza. So now the Gemara totally changes the pshat. Ella marava, right? As we know, the rule is anytime the Gemara says the word Ella, it's a new pshat. Right, so Ella Marava, Rava says a different shot. Almana min ha'erisin nami, ese v'loisasehu. The almana from erisin, meaning engaged, whatever the first stage of marriage, is also an ese and a loisaseh. Tilsiv kedoshim yiyu leilakechem, that you should have to be kaddish. So that's even for the first part of the marriage. So therefore, it's a loisaseh and aseh, and therefore you cannot do yibum. So Gemara says, okay, mamzer and nasina ma'ikla. What are you going to say about the case of mamzer and nasina? There it doesn't say kedoshim. So the Gemara answers it does. It says v'hiskadashtem, and you should make yourself holy and not marry a mamzer and nasina. So therefore, that's also to do yibum to a mamzer and nasina would make you take a mitzvah aseh and push over loisaseh and an aseh. Then it says, then the whole Torah is an essay and a loisaseh. Right? So therefore, everything is a mitzvah say and a loisaseh. And then you should never do any, and you should never say essay and a loisaseh. Right? So that can't be. Can't be that you have this an additional mitzvah say on everything in the Torah. So that can't be. So Ella Marava, a different pshat. Again, Ella means is a new pshat. You're right. Really, a kohen gadol should do yibum to a almana that's just from the first stage of marriage, right? That's what you should do. But the problem is, we're going to allow a kohen gadol to marry an almana from erisin, then he's going to end up marrying an almana from kedusha, from nisuin, right? So if he's going to end up doing it from nisuin, so then that's mamash and Issur. So again, once I mean, you could hear this gezerah, right? If you're going to allow, you're going to tell a kohen gadol, don't marry an almana, but only not an almana that's from the second stage of marriage. But the first stage of marriage, you're allowed to do it. So you could see confusion. Fine. So Gemara says, okay, mamzeres and nasina, what are you going to do with mamzeres and nasina? How come there you can't do yibum? So Gemara says, mitzvah, because we're making gezerah that if you're going to allow them to marry a mamzer and nasina in a makkah mitzvah for yibum, then maybe you're going to end up marrying a mamzeres shaleva makkah mitzvah, and that we don't want. So then what's the obvious kasha on that? So then let's nix the whole yibum, right? If you're making a gezerah not to do yibum to a mamzeres and a nasina, because you might end up marrying them in a regular case of marriage. Okay, so then how are you allowed to marry your brother's wife if there's a case of yibum? You might end up marrying your brother's wife even not in the case of yibum, right? Meaning, if you're going to allow a guy to marry his brother, if you're saying this gezerah is correct, so if you're going to allow a guy to marry his brother's wife when there's no kids, so then he may end up deciding to marry his brother's wife when there is kids, which is an Issur deraisa, right? You should never do yibbum on the brother's wife from the father, because you might end up doing the gzeras eishes al meimai. So Gemara says no. Yibum benachal talar rachmana. Yibum is totally in inheritance. Made the yediyah. So everybody knows that there's a difference between a brother's wife from a brother from the father than a brother from the mother. So the Gemara says isha shein labanim.
Isn't it a bit too late for this gezerah?
Why?
This mamzeres, it's a bit late for this gezerah. The mamzeres is falling to the brother for yibum. That means his dead brother.
No, but you might end up stopping.
Mamzeres.
I don't think it means this one specifically. It means anytime. You might somebody might just end up marrying the mamzeres.
His brother did.
Correct. But I'm saying
now we're making him. It's a little late for this gezerah. His brother did without yibum, before yibum.
I understand, but then a guy watching this whole thing says, "Hey, why not? I can marry mamzeres."
Okay, it happened. It happened
could
2
happen
years
once,
ago when
but
his brother got
we
married.
should do it that it happens more times.
Yeah, but his brother ran to Vegas to do it. This guy's doing it in front of a bezdin. Bezdin is saying, "Do it." All the big rabbis are there. It's a big ceremony, a yibum ceremony.
To the mamzeres.
Yeah.
L'chayra. That's a good. I think so. Right? So then the Gemara says, Isha shein lebanim lo tisyav. Let's knock out the whole yibum. I jumped the gun. I said it. That was the previous. I said this is the previous kasha, but the Gemara adds in one kasha first. But either way, Isha shein lebanim lo tisyav. You shouldn't do yibum to a woman who doesn't have kids, which obviously that is yibum. Gezerah mishum isha sheyesh lebanim. So he said, "Bebanim talar rachmana." The Torah says it's telling kids, and maybe everybody knows if they go to Bez and they see a yibbum going on, they know the reason for the yibbum is because there's no kids. Nobody's going to go then think that you can go marry your brother's wife. So then, like, I don't want to bring back bad memories from yesterday's daf, but a brother that was around shouldn't have yibbum. Maybe if you're gonna allow a brother to do yibbum, then maybe you're gonna end up allowing a brother who wasn't even born to do yibbum. So Gemara says, "Yeshiva talar rachmana tali in yeshiva made the yediyah," and he knows, right? Everybody knows that it's tali in whether the brother was alive. If the brother was born only after all this, so nobody's gonna confuse it. So then the Gemara says, "Okay, kol hanoshim leitis yavna." You shouldn't do yibbum on all women because they're mishum Ailonis. Maybe. Right? Maybe the wife is an Ailonis, and maybe people are going to think that you marry an Ailonis. Lo shchicha. An Ailonis is not common, so we're not going to make a gzeira because of Ailonis. Fine, mamzeres and nasin nami lo shchicha. Mamzeres and nasin is also not shchicha. So why can't you allow him to do yibbum? So now we slug that up. Elo marava. So Rava said, "Gzeira be a rishayna, atu be a shniya." Now we get into the real lamdasha, right? Stuff. So the Rava says now there's a gezeira be a rishayna, ought to be a shniya because of be a shniya. But we have to say this over very clear because it can get a little bit confusing, right? I mean, normally when you have like this one Naftali was asking before, normally when you have a brother has to marry his sister-in-law. So the Torah says that if a brother is nifter without having kids, his brother marries his wife, finished, that's a regular kedusha, they could live with each other happily ever after. Right? But when there's a case, there's a lav, like a mamzeres, right? Meaning she happens to be a mamzeres, so then we're trying to figure out, are we going to allow yibbum or we're not going to not allow yibbum? So if we're going to allow yibbum, then you can only do it once, and that's it. Because once you makayim the mitzvah of yibbum, then you can no longer be together. Meaning, if his brother's wife was a mamzeres, right? So now there's two issurim. One is that it's his brother's wife, which Torah says that's mutter. The other Issur is a mamzeres. So what are we trying to say? Do yibbum. So all you're going to do is get one yibbum, one bia, and then you're not allowed to have a second bia because you already did the mitzvah. So we're afraid, but if you're going to allow them to have one bia, then they're going to end up doing a second bia, which is mamish alav in the Torah. So therefore, they made a gezerah, no yibum, only chalitza, because we're going to allow yibum, then they're going to end up being together twice, which is not allowed. But a standard yibum is allowed because that's the Torah says it's perfectly mutter, right? So Tanya Nami Hachi, the Brisa says in Balu Kanu B'Bia Rishayna, if they do bia, then which is yibum, he's Kanu with the Bia Rishayna va'asa l'kaiman B'Bia Shniya, and it would be also to keep them for a second bia, right? So that would be the case. Now Tosfos asks, why are we making a gezerah bia rishayna atu bia shniya? How about tchilas bia saif bia? Right? How do you do a gemar bia if the whole mitzvah of yibum happens by hara, right, when the aver goes inside? So then how does he even go in further? That's Tosfos kasha. The meaning, so Tosfos is not really asking a kasha. Tosfos says lav dafka and a chanami. It doesn't mean that. It means that you only the way Tosfos understands it, that you only go in a little bit and that's it. Right?
It's not all considered one act.
No.
Yeah, that's the way. Right? That's the way Tosfos. At least that's the way Tosfos is learning it. Yes. Right.
He's talking about at a minimum, no.
Yes. Well, the shaila is, what do you call it? Hara. But again, this plays into the Tosfos on Amid Aleph, because we need hara. Hara has to be right to impregnate, which, like we said yesterday, has to be that she could theoretically get impregnated from just hara. Right. So, anyway, so that's what Tosfos is saying. Now, others say that it can't be. Other Rishonim disagree with Tosfos and say you can't tell a guy that he has to do this and only go in a little bit and that's it. Which we had way back, right? That Hashem's ways are pleasant. You're going to tell this guy that he has to do this bia, but he can only go in a slight amount, but not more than that. And can't be. It can't be. So the whole bia, the whole first bia has to be mutter, right? Yeah. So that's something, but that's there's a lot of raid obviously on this Tosfos, right? But yes, that hara is considered a bia. Yeah. Fine. So then the Gemara says, now that's our final teretz, that the reason why Chayve Lavin cannot do yibum is because if we're going to allow them, the way the Gemara says it, if we're going to allow them to have one bia, then they may end up having a second bia, which is asa, right? And Tosfos says it means it doesn't necessarily lav dafka bia rishana bia shniya means that he can only go in a small amount, and then he may end up going in further, and then that's mamash going to be an Issur, because the mitzvah, you already makayim the mitzvah with hara. Then the Gemara changes again. Hadar Amar Rava, back in the Gemara, third wide line down. Hadar Amar Rava v'Timei Rav Ashi, lav milsihi da'amri. What I said is not true, right? Meaning that it's not a gzeir derabanan. Da'amar Rish Lakish, because Rish Lakish said Anytime you have a mitzvah say and a loisa say, Rabbanan, this is really the answer to your question, right? When you have a mitzvah say and to be daicha loisa say, if you can do both, then that's what we do. Right? If you're able to take the asay, somehow get around doing the loisa say, meaning if you could be mekayim both and avada, that's what you should do. That's good. But if not, then the essay is daicha loisa say. So hachanami, but here. After chalitza, here you have an option. You could do chalitza, meaning we don't know. We have an essay say, right? There's a law for this guy to marry this woman, right? You have a mitzvah say of yibum. So good, but the Torah gave you this recipe called chalitza. So why should I say essay say if I could do chalitza and then everybody's happy? I don't know if everybody's happy, but whatever. Everything we take care of everything. The Mekayim Asay v'Laisaseh, then you Mekayim the mitzvah say and you Mekayim the Laisaseh, right? So that's why Rav is saying that's why for Chayve Lavim you don't do yibbum, you just do chalitza, and that's it. So then the Gemara asks, but Meisve Vim Balu Kanu. But we said right in the previous cases that they're not supposed to do yibbum, but if they did, they're kohen, right? So if they're kind of them, then it must be that there's a mitzvah for them to do yibbum, because if there's no mitzvah for them to do yibbum, so then how can you say that you're kind of? So Gemara says to Yufta, that's a kasha, right? So now that's a kasha on Rava's chazara. So it comes out that you will go back to the original, not the original teretz, but the previous teretz, which is that Rava's, it's be a rishayna, atu be a shniya, and that's why Chayve Lavim don't have bia. They only do chalitza. Okay, we'll stop over here.
All right, well, Shiakov,
Okay.
look at this. Shiakov,
Yeah.
this is vacuum packed beef jerky. It's been out for like 5 days. If you want it, you can have it for the Siyum tonight. If somebody will pick it up from my house. Anyway, I'm not telling you the story how I ended up with it, but it's vacuum packed. I forgot that it was in the box with a hefsher.
If he wasn't making a siyum, what would you be doing with it?
I would bring it tomorrow morning to 5 o'clock daf. You could eat it.
Oh, now you just gave it up?
You like it?
I'll give him. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not parrots. Are you coming?
So where?
If I am, I can't drive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why we finished the Perek?
No, we started the new Issur daf.
Oh.
So I don't know. I'm not leaving the house, but I'll see if somebody's driving. I don't know. You're gonna not be up, Rabban.
No, I was gonna put it on my porch now.
Liner, pick it up, Liner.
It's up to
Liner,
parrots.
pick it
It's
up.
to parrots. I don't know. It's up to parrots. He has
I'll tell you, pick it up for Sviakov.
Who's Heksher? I didn't even ask you that one.
I forgot to buy. I threw the box away.
Jacob, it looks like the same place that I bought from. It looks like the place in Muncie.
Madrid.
Jerky Joy. Jerky Joy.
Yeah, from Muncie.
I hear you. I don't know. Parrots? I guess parrots.
It's got the Sas Reagan and the Rebbe. Yeah, it's good.
If anybody wants it, it's on the hate. I'm not going to eat it.
I don't know. I don't want you to leave it out and then nobody comes to pick it up. Shine, leave it. Bring it 5 o'clock. I want to see the other from 5 o'clock.
Jacob, it lasted 5 days already. It can last one night outside also.
Rabbi, I'll go get it for you if you want it.
No. Naftali, you got your kids. Put them to sleep or whatever it is.
Well, what's this scene you're making?
That's my grandmother's yahrzeit. So my son is a couple. My son and another wire farmer are making a scene.
Gershon, you didn't miss anything. We're not having a real sip.
No.
Did you get over here in an hour?
Right.
Nope.
No.
We'll get you a chopper, Gershon.
Which side of the Steiner or Mendick?
Well, Zimmer.
Mendick Zimmer.
Mendick Zimmer. Yeah. Anyways. Okay.
I ordered it from somewhere. If it shows up, great. If they scam me out of my credit card, then whatever.
Thank you.
Okay.
Some website online, one of these farm something or another, claims they had it in stock. So.
Okay, I don't know if it's such a chiddush.
What is it?
It's about how Reb Chaim did his schedule.
Oh, okay.
That's all. Anyway, it's a sefer called Chayvus about how. Amen. Shkoyach. Yeah, so it's about a sefer about how it goes, how he went through his schedule. So I guess. Anyway, all right.
All right, I got the next.
Fine. Okay.
Either way, it should show up in a week if it exists.
All right,
Okay.
Jacob, you can have me in mind for the art site. For the
We'll have you in mind. We'll have you in mind.